Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the starship New Hope and looked out at the vast emptiness of space. The year was 2387 and humanity had spread across thousands of worlds in the galaxy. Ships moved between star systems carrying people, goods, and dreams of a better future. But Jake knew the truth that most humans refused to see. They were destroying themselves. The war between the human colonies had been going on for 50 years. The Eastern Sector fought the Western Alliance while the Northern Territories battled the Southern Federation. Each side claimed they were fighting for freedom, for resources, for the right to exist. Jake had seen the reports from every front. Millions of humans died each year in battles that solved nothing. Jake walked to his command chair and sat down heavily. His gray hair showed his age and the weight of command. At 62 years old, he had spent most of his life watching humanity tear itself apart. The irony was not lost on him. Humans had conquered the galaxy but could not conquer their own nature. "Admiral, we are receiving reports from the Kepler system," said Commander Lisa Hayes, his second in command. She was younger than Jake, maybe 40 years old, with short brown hair and tired eyes. The Northern Territories just destroyed 3 civilian ships trying to reach the outer colonies. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. More innocent people dead because of politics and pride. Any survivors? None, sir. The ships were carrying families, mostly children. The bridge fell silent. Jake's crew had heard reports like this every day for months. The war was not just between military forces anymore. It had become a war against humanity itself. "Sir, there is something else," Lisa continued. "The alien species are watching us. Our intelligence reports say they are meeting to discuss what they call the human problem." Jake was not surprised. The Zephyrians, with their insect-like bodies and hive minds, had always been suspicious of human expansion. The Corellians, who lived in the deep ocean worlds, thought humans were too aggressive. The Valdorians, made of living crystal, believed humans were chaotic and dangerous. "What are they planning?" Jake asked. "We don't know for sure, but some reports suggest they might try to stop the war by force. They see us as a threat to galactic peace." Jake stood up and walked to the large window that showed the stars. Somewhere out there, alien species were deciding the fate of humanity. The thought should have made him angry, but instead he felt only sadness. Maybe the aliens were right. Maybe humans were too dangerous to be left alone. "Sir, what are your orders?" Lisa asked. Jake had been thinking about this moment for months. He had a plan, but it was so radical that even he was not sure it would work. "Lisa, I want you to send a message to all human fleet commanders. Tell them to report to the Vega system immediately." "All of them, sir? Even the ones fighting in the war?" "Especially them. Tell them Admiral Morrison has a solution to end the war." Over the next 3 weeks, ships began arriving at the Vega system. Some came from the Eastern Sector, others from the Western Alliance. Commanders who had been trying to kill each other for years now sat in the same room listening to Jake's plan. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jake began, "we are dying. Not from alien attacks or natural disasters, but from our own hands. We have become our own worst enemy." Captain Nina Scott from the Western Alliance interrupted. "Admiral, we all know the situation. What do you propose we do about it?" Jake looked around the room at the faces of humanity's military leaders. These were good people who had been forced to make terrible choices. "I propose we stop." "One propose." "We put humanity to sleep." The room erupted in angry voices. Some commanders called Jake crazy. Others accused him of being a traitor. But Jake raised his hand for silence. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "We have the technology. The cryogenic sleep systems we use for long space travel can be modified for entire populations. We can put every human in the galaxy into hibernation." "For how long?" asked Commander Mary Foster from the Northern Territories. "As long as it takes," Jake replied. "Maybe 100 years, maybe 300. Long enough for the galaxy to forget why they fear. U.S., long enough for us to forget why we hate each other." Colonel Danny Rivera, a military engineer, stood up. "Admiral, the logistics alone would be impossible. We would need thousands of ships, millions of hibernation pods, automated systems to maintain everything. We have the resources, Jake said. If we stop fighting each other and work together, we can build what we need in 2 years. The debate continued for hours. Some commanders refused to consider the plan. Others walked out of the meeting. But slowly, Jake began to convince them. The war was destroying humanity. The aliens were preparing to intervene. Something had to be done. Captain Lisa Hayes supported Jake's plan from the beginning. We have tried everything else, she said. We have tried negotiations, treaties, and ceasefires. Nothing works. Maybe sleep is the only answer. Over the following months, the plan took shape. Massive hibernation ships were built in secret. Each ship could hold millions of people in cryogenic sleep. The ships were designed to be self-sufficient, with automated systems that could maintain the sleeping population for centuries. The location of the hibernation ships was kept secret. They were scattered across remote areas of the galaxy where no one would find them. Each ship had its own defense systems and the ability to move if discovered. The process of putting humanity to sleep took 2 years. Families said goodbye to each other, not knowing when they would wake up. Children were put to sleep first, then adults. Then finally, the military personnel who would guard the ships. Jake was one of the last humans to enter hibernation. Before he went to sleep, he recorded a final message for the galaxy. We are not surrendering, he said. We are not giving up. We are choosing to dream of a better future instead of fighting for a bitter present. When we wake up, we will be better than we were. We will be ready to take our place in the galaxy as protectors, not destroyers. The alien species watched as humanity disappeared. The Zephyrians, Corellians, and Valdorians were confused at first. Where had the humans gone? Were they planning some kind of attack? But as years passed and no humans were seen, the aliens began to understand. Humanity had chosen to sleep rather than fight. The galaxy was finally at peace. The rule was simple and clear: never wake the humans. It became law among all alien species. It became a religious belief. It became the foundation of galactic peace. And in the darkness of space, in ships hidden among distant stars, humanity slept and dreamed of better days. 200 years had passed since the humans went to sleep. The galaxy was a different place now. The Zephyrian Collective had become the strongest power, their hive mind allowing them to coordinate across vast distances. The Corellian depths controlled the water worlds, their blue-scaled bodies perfectly adapted to oceanic life. The Valdorian Crystarchy managed the mining operations, their crystal bodies able to survive in the harshest environments. Commander Alex Turner was young for a Zephyrian officer, only 30 cycles old. His insect-like body was smaller than most of his kind, but his mind was sharp and curious. He had been assigned to patrol the outer rim systems where few ships ever traveled. It was considered a boring assignment, but Alex enjoyed the peace and quiet. On a routine patrol near the Kepler 442 system, Alex's sensors detected something unusual. There were structures on the third planet that did not match any known alien architecture. The buildings were made of a strange metal that seemed to absorb light. The shapes were angular and efficient, unlike the flowing curves of Zephyrian design or the organic forms of Corellian construction. Alex contacted his superior, High Commander Zethkar, and reported the discovery. Permission to investigate the structures, sir. They appear to be ancient but well preserved. Granted, came the reply, but proceed with caution. Unknown technology can be dangerous. Alex landed his ship near the largest structure. As he approached, he realized the buildings were much larger than they had appeared from orbit. The smallest one was the size of a Zephyrian city block. The largest stretched for kilometers in every direction. The main entrance was sealed, but Alex's cutting tools made quick work of the metal barriers. Inside, the structures were dark and empty. Emergency lighting activated as Alex moved through the corridors, suggesting the buildings still had power after all these years. In the central chamber, Alex found what appeared to be a command center. Banks of computers lined the walls, their screens dark but not dead. Strange symbols covered the displays, symbols that Alex did not recognize. He activated his recording equipment and began documenting everything he saw. That was when he found the archive room. Thousands of data storage. Devices were arranged in perfect rows. Each device was labeled with symbols that meant nothing to Alex, but the organization suggested this was some kind of library or database. Alex carefully removed several storage devices and returned to his ship. He sent a message to the Zephyrian Science Council requesting assistance. 3 days later, a research ship arrived carrying Dr. Kate Sullivan, a Corellian scientist who specialized in ancient technology. Dr. Sullivan was excited by Alex's discovery. Her aquatic body required a special environment suit to work on land, but her enthusiasm was obvious even through the protective gear. "These structures are incredible," she said as they explored the buildings together. "The preservation is perfect. Whoever built these knew how to make things last." Working together, Alex and Dr. Sullivan managed to activate some of the computer systems. The symbols on the screens began to make sense as they realized they were looking at a form of writing. The writing was complex but logical, suggesting an advanced civilization. "Look at this," Dr. Sullivan said, pointing to a display. "These appear to be star charts. And these symbols here, they match the locations of human colony worlds from the old records." Alex felt a chill run through his body. "Are you saying these buildings are human?" "I think so. But that would mean the humans were here long before they went to sleep. These structures are at least 500 years old." As they continued their investigation, Alex and Dr. Sullivan uncovered more evidence of human presence. Weapons that could cut through any known material. Ships that were small but incredibly fast. Manufacturing facilities that could produce complex technology with minimal resources. But it was the discovery of the military archives that truly shocked them. Video recordings showed human soldiers fighting battles across the galaxy. The humans in these recordings were not the divided, war-torn people that history remembered. They were unified, disciplined, and incredibly effective, one recording showed. A single human ship facing off against a fleet of 20 alien vessels. The human ship was smaller and appeared to be outnumbered, but within minutes all 20 alien ships were destroyed. The human ship had barely been damaged. Another recording showed human soldiers defending a colony world against an invasion. The attackers outnumbered the humans 10-1, but the humans held their position and eventually drove off the invaders. The tactical displays showed that the humans had used the terrain, weather, and even the psychology of their enemies to achieve victory. "This doesn't make sense," Alex said as they watched the recordings. "The history books say the humans were always fighting each other. These recordings show them working together." Dr. Sullivan studied the tactical analyses that accompanied the recordings. "These strategies are incredible. The humans didn't just fight, they thought 3 steps ahead of their enemies. They turned every disadvantage into an advantage." The most disturbing discovery was a recording of a human commander addressing his troops. The man was tall and confident, with gray hair and tired eyes. He spoke in a calm, measured voice that somehow made his words more frightening. "Remember," the commander said, "we are not fighting for conquest. We are fighting for survival. Every world we take, every system we control is one less place our enemies can use against us. We build fortresses not for glory, but for protection. When the real threat comes, we will be ready." Alex looked at Dr. Sullivan. What real threat? What were they preparing for? The answer came in the form of classified military reports. The humans had been tracking something from the edge of the galaxy. Something that consumed entire star systems and left nothing behind. The reports called it the Void Hunger, and the humans had been preparing for its arrival for centuries. "We need to report this to the Galactic Council," Dr. Sullivan said. "The humans weren't conquering the galaxy. They were trying to protect it." Alex agreed, but he was worried about how the council would react. The rule against waking the humans was sacred among all alien species. Questioning that rule would be seen as dangerous, even treasonous. The journey back to the galactic capital took 2 weeks. During that time, Alex and Dr. Sullivan prepared their report carefully. They had evidence, recordings, and analysis that painted a completely different picture of human history. The Galactic Council met in the Great Crystal Chamber on the neutral world of Harmony Station. Representatives from all the major species gathered to hear Alex and Dr. Sullivan's report. High Counselor Zethkar presided over the meeting, his massive form towering over the other delegates. "You claim the humans were not the aggressive conquerors." "We believe them to be?" Zethkar asked after hearing the report. "That is correct, High Counselor," Dr. Sullivan replied. "The evidence suggests they were preparing for a threat from outside the galaxy. Their military actions were defensive, not aggressive." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates were intrigued by the new information. Others were angry at the suggestion that their ancestors had been wrong about the humans. Lieutenant Ben Parker, a young Valdorian crystal singer, stood to address the council. His crystalline body reflected the chamber's lights as he spoke. "Perhaps we should consider that the humans went to sleep not because they were defeated, but because they were too dangerous to remain awake. Too dangerous even to themselves. That is exactly why we must never wake them," Zethkar replied firmly. "The rule has kept the galaxy peaceful for 2 centuries. We will not change it based on old recordings and speculation." The debate continued for hours, but the decision was already made. The old guard controlled the council, and they would not risk galactic peace for the sake of curiosity about sleeping humans. As the meeting ended, Alex felt disappointed but not surprised. The aliens had built their civilization on the assumption that humans were dangerous. Admitting they might have been wrong would mean admitting their entire way of life was built on a lie. Dr. Sullivan approached Alex as they left the chamber. "The evidence is clear," she said quietly. "The humans were preparing for something that scared them enough to put their entire species to sleep." Alex nodded. "The question is, what happens when that something finally arrives?" Neither of them had an answer, but both knew that the galaxy's peaceful existence might not last forever. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, the humans slept on, waiting for the day when they would be needed again. The rule remained unchanged. Never wake the humans. But for the first time in 2 centuries, some people were beginning to wonder if that rule might be wrong. The first sign of trouble came from the edge of the galaxy. A research station in the Outer Rim went silent without warning. The Zephyrian patrol ships that investigated found nothing where the station should have been. Not wreckage, not debris. Just empty space where a thriving scientific outpost had existed days before. High Commander Zethkar dismissed the incident as a technical malfunction. "Space is dangerous," he told his officers. "Equipment fails, accidents happen. There is no cause for alarm." But Commander Alex Turner was not convinced. He had spent months studying the human archives, and the descriptions of the void hunger matched what had happened to the research station. Something had consumed it completely, leaving no trace behind. The second incident occurred 3 weeks later. An entire mining colony in the Corellian sector simply vanished. 50,000 Corellians working the deep ocean world of Aquatica Prime were there one day and gone the next. The planet itself remained, but all signs of life had been erased. Dr. Kate Sullivan was part of the investigation team that examined the empty world. The ocean cities were gone, but the water remained. The mining equipment had vanished, but the minerals were still in the ground. Whatever had taken the colonists had been very selective about what it consumed. "This is not natural," Dr. Sullivan reported to the Galactic Council. "The patterns match the old human reports about the void hunger. Something is consuming life itself." The council was divided. Some members wanted to investigate further, while others insisted on maintaining the status quo. The debate might have continued for months if not for the third incident. The Void Hunters, as they came to be known, struck the Valdorian mining world of Crystal Falls. This time, there were survivors. Lieutenant Ben Parker was among the evacuation. Ships that rescued the few Valdorians who had escaped the attack. Ben's report to the council was terrifying. "They came from nowhere," he said, his crystal body flickering with stress patterns. "Ships that seemed to be made of darkness itself. They didn't fire weapons or drop bombs. They just touched the surface of the planet and everything began to disappear. The few survivors described creatures that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. They moved through solid matter like it was water. They consumed not just living beings, but the very concept of life itself. Planets they touched became dead zones where nothing could grow or survive. General Sam Brooks, the youngest Zephyrian to ever achieve high command, demanded immediate action. "We need to mobilize the entire fleet," he told the council. "These void hunters are not raiders or conquerors. They are a force of annihilation." High Counselor Zethkar was still reluctant to believe the threat was real. "We have dealt with dangerous species before," he said. "The galaxy has survived for millions of years without human intervention. We will adapt as we always have." But the Void Hunters were unlike any enemy the galaxy had faced. They struck random targets across multiple sectors. Their ships seemed to appear from nowhere and disappear just as quickly. Traditional military tactics were useless against an enemy that could phase through solid matter. The Zephyrian Collective's greatest strength was their hive mind coordination. In battle, thousands of ships could act as one, responding to threats with perfect unity. But the Void Hunters used chaos as a weapon. Their attacks were random, unpredictable, and impossible to coordinate against. The first major battle occurred in the Centauri system. General Brooks led a fleet of 500 Zephyrian ships against 50 Void Hunter vessels. The battle should have been a quick victory for the Collective, but the Void Hunters' reality warping abilities made traditional combat impossible. Zephyrian ships that touched the Void Hunters' energy fields simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged, but erased as if they had never been built. The hive-mind connection that was the Collective's greatest strength became a liability as panic spread through the fleet. Brooks watched in horror as his ships vanished one by one. "All ships retreat," he ordered. "Fall back to the inner systems," but retreat was not possible. The Void Hunters moved through space in ways that defied physics. They appeared behind fleeing ships, around them, sometimes even inside them. By the end of the battle, only 12 Zephyrian ships remained from the original 500. The Corellian depths fared no better. Their greatest warships were designed for underwater combat, using pressure waves and sonic attacks that worked perfectly in their oceanic environment. But the Void Hunter ships seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, making them immune to conventional weapons. Admiral Nina Scott, the Corellian fleet commander, lost 3/4 of her ships in the first engagement. "They move like water through water," she reported. "Our sonar cannot track them, our weapons cannot hit them. They are like ghosts that can kill." The Valdorian Crystarchy tried a different approach. Their crystal singers could manipulate matter at the molecular level, creating perfect formations and flawless strategies. But the Void Hunters thrived on chaos and disorder. The more perfect the Valdorian formations, the more devastating the Hunters' attacks became. Lieutenant Ben Parker led a squadron of crystal ships against a Void Hunter raiding party. The Valdorian formation was beautiful to watch, each ship moving in perfect harmony with the others. But when the Void Hunters attacked, the formation became a trap. The harmony that gave the Valdorians their strength also made them predictable. "We need a new strategy," Ben reported after barely escaping the battle. "Everything we know about warfare is useless against these creatures." The Galactic Council met in emergency session as reports of new attacks came in daily. Entire star systems were being consumed. Billions of lives were being lost. The galaxy's greatest military minds were powerless against this new threat. Dr. Kate Sullivan stood before the council with a proposal that would have been unthinkable just months before. "We need to wake the humans," she said quietly. The chamber fell silent. Even suggesting such a thing was considered heresy. High Counselor Zethkar's voice shook with rage. "You would doom us all. The humans are monsters. They will enslave us as they tried to enslave the galaxy before." "Look at the evidence," Dr. Sullivan replied. "The humans didn't try to enslave the galaxy. They were preparing for this exact threat. Their military archives show battles against creatures that match the Void Hunters perfectly. Commander Alex Turner supported her proposal. The human archives contain detailed tactical analysis of chaos-based warfare. They developed strategies specifically designed to fight enemies that used unpredictability as a weapon. General Sam? Brooks was desperate enough to consider any option. Our fleets are being destroyed. Our worlds are being consumed. What do we have to lose? Everything, Zethkar replied. The humans are too dangerous to wake. The rule exists for good reason. The debate raged for hours. Some council members supported the proposal, arguing that desperate times called for desperate measures. Others insisted that waking the humans would be worse than facing the Void Hunters. Lieutenant Ben Parker made the argument that finally swayed the council. The humans put themselves to sleep, he said. They chose hibernation over conquest. If they were truly monsters, they would have stayed awake and ruled the galaxy by force. Dr. Sullivan added her support. The human archives show that they were fighting a defensive war. Every system they took, every world they controlled, was part of a strategy to protect the galaxy from external threats. The vote was close, but fear of extinction won over fear of the unknown. The council voted to wake the humans, but with strict conditions. Only a small number would be awakened at first. They would be monitored constantly. Any sign of aggressive behavior would result in immediate hibernation. High Counselor Zethkar cast the deciding vote with obvious reluctance. May the ancestors forgive us, he said. We are about to break the most sacred rule in galactic history. The mission to wake the humans was assigned to a joint task force. Commander Alex Turner would lead the Zephyrian contingent. Dr. Kate Sullivan would handle the scientific aspects. Lieutenant Ben Parker would provide Valdorian crystal singing abilities to interface with the human hibernation systems. As the task force prepared for their mission, none of them could predict what they would find when they woke the sleeping giants. The humans had been asleep for 3 centuries, dreaming dreams that no one else could understand. The galaxy was about to discover that some rules existed for reasons that were both better and worse than anyone had imagined. The Void Hunters were coming, and only the humans might have the knowledge to stop them, but waking the humans would change everything. The galaxy that had known peace for 2 centuries was about to learn that some problems could only be solved by embracing the very thing you feared most. The rule had been simple: never wake the humans. But sometimes survival required breaking even the most sacred rules. The human hibernation ship looked like a massive asteroid floating in empty space. Its surface was covered with what appeared to be natural rock, but Commander Alex Turner's sensors revealed the truth. Beneath the camouflage was a vessel larger than any ship in the current galactic fleet. How did they hide something this big? Lieutenant Ben Parker asked as their shuttle approached the ship. Dr. Kate Sullivan checked her readings again. The ship is generating a field that makes it invisible to most sensors. We only found it because we knew where to look. The Joint Task Force had spent weeks searching for human hibernation ships using the location data from the ancient archives. Most of the coordinates led to empty space, but this one had yielded results. The ship was exactly where the humans had hidden it 3 centuries ago. Alex activated the communication system and sent the awakening codes they had found in the archives. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship's surface began to change. The fake rock shifted and moved, revealing airlocks and docking ports. They're responding, Dr. Sullivan said with excitement. The automated systems are still functional. After all these years, the task force docked with the hibernation ship and made their way inside. The corridors were dark and cold, but emergency lighting activated as they moved through the ship. The architecture was different from alien designs, more angular and efficient. They found the hibernation chambers in the ship's central section. Row upon row of pods stretched as far as they could see. Each pod contained a human in perfect preservation, their bodies maintained by technology that the aliens barely understood. How many are there? Ben asked, his crystal body reflecting the chamber's lights. According to the ship's computer, this vessel contains 5 million humans, Dr. Sullivan replied. And this is just one ship. The archive suggests there are hundreds more scattered across the galaxy. Alex approached one of the pods and read the information displayed on its screen. Colonel Danny Rivera, military engineer, age 45, hibernation date 2387. He looked at the sleeping human inside. The man appeared to be in perfect health, as if he had just fallen asleep moments ago. We should start with the military personnel, Alex decided. They will be better prepared to handle the situation. Dr. Sullivan began the awakening process for Colonel Rivera's pod. The systems were remarkably sophisticated, gradually bringing the human back to consciousness while monitoring his vital signs. The process took 30 minutes, during which the aliens waited nervously. Colonel Rivera's eyes opened slowly. He looked around the chamber with confusion, then focused on the 3 aliens standing beside his pod. His first words were not what they expected. How bad is it? He asked quietly. Alex was surprised by the question. You're not surprised to see us here? Rivera sat up slowly, his body adjusting to consciousness after 3 centuries of sleep. The awakening protocols were only supposed to activate in case of extreme emergency. Since I'm awake, I assume something terrible has happened. Dr. Sullivan explained the situation with the Void Hunters. As she spoke, Rivera's expression grew more serious. When she finished, he nodded grimly. The Devourers, he said. We've been expecting them. You know about the Void Hunters? Ben asked. We've been tracking them for centuries, Rivera replied. They're not from this galaxy. They come from the void between galaxies, consuming everything in their path. We put humanity to sleep because we knew they would eventually arrive. Rivera stood up and walked to a control panel. His fingers moved across the interface with practiced ease, activating systems that had been dormant for 3 centuries. I need to wake the others. We don't have much time. Over the next few hours, more humans began to wake up. Captain Nina Scott, a fleet commander with short blonde hair and intense blue eyes. Major Chris Johnson, a tactical specialist who immediately began studying the Void Hunter attack patterns. Commander Mary Foster, a logistics expert who started calculating supply requirements. Each human who woke up asked the same question, how bad is it? And each one accepted the situation with the same calm professionalism that had marked Rivera's awakening. Where is Admiral Morrison? Nina asked as she reviewed the tactical displays. Still in hibernation, Rivera replied. He's in the command ship, along with the other senior officers. We should wake them next. The command ship was even larger than the first hibernation vessel. It contained not just sleeping humans, but also manufacturing facilities, weapon systems, and command centers that had been maintained by automated systems for 3 centuries. Admiral Jake Morrison was the first to wake on the command ship. He was older than the others, his gray hair showing the years of command before hibernation. But his eyes were alert and focused as he assessed the situation. Status report, he said to Rivera. The Void Hunters have arrived, sir. They've consumed several star systems and destroyed most of the alien fleets that tried to stop them. The Galactic Council voted to wake us. Morrison nodded as if he had expected this news. Time to implement the Sword Protocol. The aliens had no idea what the Sword Protocol was, but they watched in amazement as the humans began to transform their hibernation ships into something else entirely. The vessels that had looked like simple transports revealed themselves to be incredibly advanced warships. These aren't just hibernation ships, Dr. Sullivan realized. They're weapons platforms. Everything we built was designed for war, Morrison explained. We knew the Devourers would come eventually. We've been preparing for this battle for centuries. The human approach to the Void Hunter threat was unlike anything the aliens had seen. Where the galactic species had tried to fight chaos with order, the humans embraced controlled chaos. They developed strategies that were unpredictable even to themselves. Captain Nina Scott took command of the first human fleet to engage the Void Hunters. Her ships moved in patterns that seemed random but were actually based on complex mathematical principles. The Void Hunters, accustomed to enemies that fought in predictable formations, found themselves outmaneuvered. The key is to be more chaotic than they are, Nina explained to the alien observers. But our chaos is planned and controlled, theirs is random and wasteful. The first battle between humans and Void Hunters took place in the Centauri Junction, the same system where General Brooks had lost most of his fleet. Nina's 12 ships faced over 200 Void Hunter vessels. Alex watched the battle from the command ship's bridge. The human ships moved like dancers, each one following a pattern. That seemed to anticipate the Void Hunters' attacks. When the enemy ships tried to phase through solid matter, the humans were already somewhere else. How are they doing that? Ben asked. Major Chris Johnson was monitoring the battle from the tactical station. We studied chaos theory for centuries, he explained. The Devourers think chaos is random, but it's not. It follows patterns, just very complex ones. The battle lasted only 20 minutes. When it was over, all 200 Void Hunter ships had been destroyed. The human fleet had lost only one vessel, and that was due to a calculated risk that saved the other 11 ships. Impossible, General Brooks whispered as he watched the battle recordings. How did 12 ships destroy 200? The same way 12 humans can defeat 200 enemies on the ground, Morrison replied. Superior tactics, better preparation, and the willingness to do what needs to be done. The humans began waking up by the millions. Each hibernation ship contained specialists trained for specific roles in the war against the Void Hunters. Engineers who could build weapons from asteroid material. Pilots who could fly ships through dimensional rifts. Soldiers who could fight enemies that existed in multiple realities, but the aliens began to notice something disturbing. The humans were not just waking up, they were taking control. Human commanders were given authority over alien fleets. Human technology was being integrated into every defense system. Human strategies were being taught to alien military academies. They're not just helping us, Dr. Sullivan observed. They're replacing us. Commander Alex Turner had been promoted to serve as liaison between the human and alien forces. He found himself taking orders from people who had been asleep for 3 centuries, but somehow understood the current situation better than anyone else. You're concerned about human control, Morrison said during one of their meetings. I understand. You'll worry, but consider the alternative. Morrison showed Alex recordings of Void Hunter attacks on undefended systems. Entire worlds consumed in hours. Billions of lives erased from existence. The galaxy was facing extinction, and only the humans seemed able to fight back effectively. We didn't want to wake up, Morrison continued. We put ourselves to sleep. Because we knew our nature would eventually lead to this moment. We're not conquerors, Commander Turner. We're guardians who were forced to become rulers. The human military machine began to reshape the galaxy's defenses. Automated factories built weapons that could harm the Void Hunters. Training programs taught alien soldiers how to fight enemies that defied conventional tactics. Supply lines were established to support a war that might last decades. Captain Lisa Hayes, humanity's last ambassador before the Great Sleep, was among the final humans to wake up. She took on the role of coordinating between human military forces and alien civilian populations. The war against the Void Hunters lasted 3 years, but it felt like a lifetime to those who lived through it. Admiral Jake Morrison had aged visibly during the conflict, the weight of commanding humanity's return to consciousness showing in every line on his face. The final battle took place at the edge of the galaxy, where the dimensional rifts that had allowed the Void Hunters' entry were finally sealed. Captain Nina Scott led the last assault on the Void Hunter mothership, a massive entity that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Her fleet of modified human vessels used reality-anchoring technology to force the creature into normal space where it could be destroyed. The explosion could be seen from 12 star systems away. All Void Hunter vessels have been eliminated, Nina reported to Morrison from her flagship. The dimensional rifts are sealed. The threat is over. But even as the galaxy celebrated victory, a new reality was taking shape. The humans had not simply defeated the Void Hunters. They had restructured the entire galactic civilization in the process. Every major defense installation was now under human command. Every important trade route was patrolled by human ships. Every strategic decision was made by human leaders. Commander Alex Turner found himself serving as the Zephyrian liaison to the new human administration. His office was on Geneva Station, a massive space station that the humans had built in just 6 months. The station served as the capital of what everyone knew but no one dared call the human empire. The humans don't see it as an empire, Alex explained to Dr. Kate Sullivan during one of their regular meetings. They call it a protectorate. They claim they're just keeping the galaxy safe. Dr. Sullivan had been promoted to head the Department of Interspecies Relations, a position that sounded important but gave her very little actual authority. The result is the same regardless of what they call it. Every major decision in the galaxy goes through human approval. The transformation had been gradual but unstoppable. During the war, human military commanders had naturally taken control of combined fleets. Human technology had been integrated into alien defense systems. Human strategies had become the standard for all military operations. When the war ended, the humans simply did not give control back. Why should we? Asked Captain Lisa Hayes, who now served as humanity's chief diplomat. The galaxy proved it could not defend itself. The Void Hunters would have consumed every living being if we had not intervened. Lisa's office overlooked the main plaza of Geneva Station, where representatives from hundreds of species came to petition the human government for various needs. Trade disputes, territorial claims, resource allocation, all of it went through. Human bureaucracy now. We're not conquerors, Lisa continued, addressing the concerns that Alex and Dr. Sullivan had brought to her. We're guardians. The galaxy is safer now than it has been in centuries. The statistics supported her claim. Piracy had virtually disappeared under human patrol fleets. Trade wars had been resolved through human arbitration. Even the old territorial disputes between alien species had been settled by human mediators. But the cost of this safety was freedom. General Sam Brooks had been given a choice after the war: accept human authority or retire from military service. He chose to serve under human command, but the decision haunted him. We asked them to save us, he told his aide, Lieutenant Ben Parker. We never asked them to rule us. Ben had adapted better to the new order. His crystal singing abilities made him valuable to the human military, and he had been given significant responsibilities in the defense fleet. Perhaps this is what the galaxy needed, he suggested. We had peace for 2 centuries, but it was fragile peace. The Void Hunters proved that. The humans had indeed made the galaxy more secure, but they had done so by eliminating the independence that the alien species had cherished. Every world now had human advisors. Every fleet had human officers. Every government had human observers. It was Colonel Danny Rivera who explained the human perspective to a gathering of alien leaders. You think we wanted this responsibility? He asked. We put ourselves to sleep to avoid ruling the galaxy. But you woke us up, and now we have to live with the consequences. Rivera had been promoted to oversee planetary defense systems, a job that required him to work closely with alien governments. The Void Hunters were just the first threat. Our long-range sensors are detecting other dangers moving toward this galaxy, things that make the Void Hunters look like a minor inconvenience. The revelation sent shockwaves through the alien leadership. Dr. Sullivan demanded to see the sensor data, but the humans classified it above her security level. You'll know what you need to know when you need to know it, Rivera told her. This was the new reality. The humans shared information on a need-to-know basis. They made decisions without consulting alien governments. They moved fleets and resources according to their own strategic assessments. We've traded the Void Hunters for human masters, Dr. Sullivan complained to Alex. Is this really better? Alex was not sure. The galaxy was undeniably safer under human protection. Wars had ended, trade was flourishing, and scientific advancement had accelerated under human guidance. But the price was autonomy. The humans seemed genuinely concerned with protecting the galaxy, but they defined protection in their own terms. They built massive defensive installations without asking permission. They relocated entire populations when they deemed it strategically necessary. They made alliance agreements on behalf of species that had no voice in the negotiations. Major Chris Johnson, now Director of Galactic Intelligence, tried to explain the human position during a rare public address. "We are not your enemies," he said. "We are your protectors. But protection sometimes requires difficult decisions that cannot be made by committee." The alien species found themselves in an impossible situation. They could not challenge human authority because they depended on human protection. They could not leave the human sphere of influence because there was nowhere else to go. They could not return to their old way of life because the humans had proven that the old way was inadequate. "This is what we feared when we made the rule about never waking the humans," High Counselor Zethkar admitted to his advisors. "We knew they would take control. We just didn't realize how completely they would do it." Zethkar had kept his position as head of the Zephyrian Collective, but his authority was largely ceremonial now. Real decisions were made by human administrators, who consulted with alien leaders as a courtesy, not a necessity. The humans had created a benevolent dictatorship that was both more just and more oppressive than anything the galaxy had known before. Crime was virtually eliminated through human law enforcement. Poverty was reduced through human resource distribution. Conflicts were resolved through human mediation. But freedom, the freedom to make mistakes and learn from them, the freedom to choose your own path even if it led to failure, that freedom was gone. Captain Nina Scott, now Admiral of the Galactic Defense Fleet, addressed the concerns during the 3rd anniversary of the Void Hunter defeat. "You had 3 centuries of freedom," she said. "You used that freedom to build a beautiful, peaceful civilization. But you also used it to make yourselves vulnerable to extinction." Her words were both praise and condemnation. The aliens had created something wonderful during humanity's sleep, but they had also proven themselves incapable of defending it. "We will not make the same mistake our ancestors made," Nina continued. "We will not go back to sleep and leave the galaxy unprotected. We are awake now, and we will remain awake. The galaxy will be safe under our watch." Admiral Morrison made the final statement on humanity's new role during a ceremony marking the completion of the galactic defense grid. The massive network of sensors, weapons, and shield generators stretched across the entire galaxy, all controlled from human command centers. "We never wanted to rule," Morrison said, his voice carrying across the assembled representatives of hundreds of worlds. "We wanted to sleep and dream of better days. But you woke us because you needed us. Now we are awake, and we will do what needs to be done." The ceremony concluded with the activation of the defense grid. Lights appeared across the galaxy as the network came online. Every world, every system, every trade route was now under constant human surveillance and protection. Dr. Kate Sullivan watched the lights appear on the main display and felt a mixture of gratitude and loss. The galaxy was safe, but it was no longer free. The humans had kept their promise to be better than they were before, but better had come at a price that no one had anticipated. "The rule was never wake the humans," she said quietly to Alex as they watched the ceremony. "Maybe our ancestors were wiser than we thought." Alex nodded, but he also remembered the Void Hunter attacks. He remembered worlds consumed and billions of lives lost. "Maybe," he said, "but maybe some rules are meant to be broken." The humans had awakened to save the galaxy, and they had succeeded. But their success had transformed them from sleeping giants into wakeful gods. The galaxy was theirs now, whether they wanted it or not, whether the other species liked it or not. The only rule had been never wake the humans. That rule was broken, and now everyone had to live with the consequences. The galaxy was safe, protected, and controlled by beings who had proven they could defend it better than anyone else.